Dad also had this gill netting boat. He and Kurt, my uncle, would gill net during the fall, and that gill netting boat would come up here. Can't see it, but on the other side of this building there was a dock where they stretched their nets and fixed their nets and took the salmon and prepared them and got it ready to ship.
I don't know how they did it on those cold, rainy nights whenever they were out there going in.
It was cold. It had a little bit of a cabin over the engine.
The engine.
It had a little Jeep four-cylinder engine in it, a flat bottom fish boat. And I would get in there and huddle around that engine.
I did the same thing.
Cold.
Yeah.
But I remember him crossing the highway, bringing one up that we were going to put in the deep freeze.
Yeah.
And he had his hands in the gills like this and walking across the highway, and the tail was...
A mail boat came up and down the river delivering the mail, as well as picking up our 5-gallon cans of milk to take to the creamery. I also had a paper route, get up about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and deliver approximately 160 papers to people throughout the city, as well as crossing the bridge over into Glenada. Windy, watery, rainy days, that was not an easy thing to do. Dad had a boat called Lisa, and we parked it down here. Usually it was either there or inside of this area here. And we would use it, take it out deep sea fishing, run from here, clear out to the ocean from here. But all we had to do was cross the road and go to the house that's up there on the hill. That house was first built by Grandpa Rose, and then it was added on to by Dad. And Virgil then remodeled some of it. And after he lived there for a while, he built a house up on the hill, up on the 1,000 acres that Dad had above and beyond what we can see here. Here we are at the farm. Just over in that direction, there used to be a house. 2 bedrooms, living room, dining room, and then a woodshed and a bathroom. Toilet actually hung over this little creek that you see here. The house had no electricity, but Dad would charge up the batteries that would give us at least a light or two at the house. That would run out sometimes, and we would be totally in the dark. The 36 Shiv pickup that we rescued from the logging we brought it down here and ran around on the beach, decided to go down to the jetty, went down, stopped, got out, headed towards the jetty and looked back, and the pickup was sinking in the sand. We thought, we got to get this thing out of here. Went back, tried to get it out, couldn't do it. There was an old man with a mule and a wagon that made his living right here on this beach, pulling people out of the sand. I had to run down and get the old man and the mule to come down and pull the pickup out of the water and the beach. That was one incredible moment.
You remember when Dad would take the horses down on the beach and we'd all go horse riding
Yeah.
down there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Was that at Hasita Beach?
Yes, yes.
Out there?
We could take our
Yeah.
cars out on the beach.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, we
yeah.
did. I was,
Yeah.
Jerry Newton and I went out and went racing on the beach there, all the way up to almost the Sea Lion Caves there before we're at
Yeah.
the beach ends.
oh yeah?
There's a little creek coming out there. We go through that creek and splash the water. And he had a 56 Oldsmobile and I had that 59 Mercury. And we would just go
On the
yeah,
beach.
We just go ripping down the sand through there.
Turning wheelies, right?
That's when you could put a car on the beach.
South Jetty drag racing. Tell us about that.
It was fun.
Being involved in that.
It was a dead end road. We would go down and make sure there was nobody down at the other end.
Yeah.
So we had it all to ourselves, and then there was a nice long straight stretch, and we marked off a quarter mile, and there we'd go out and burn some rubber.
Everybody would challenge each other.
Challenge
Okay,
it.
let's go run them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you in on that too?
Oh
Lon?
yeah, I had
Oh,
my
yeah.
little 55 Ford.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I beat a Mustang, a 6-cylinder Mustang.
Isn't it? That hill, there's a hill right over there that we used to play King of the Mountain. And we had BB guns and slingshots, and it was trails to the top, and whoever could capture the top part was King of the Mountain. The only challenge with that is during World War II, they were putting the Army came in to put a anti-aircraft gun placement up there. Three Rose boys thought, oh, that'd be an interesting thing to go and watch. So we crawled up through the bushes to watch them put that anti-aircraft gun in place. But on our way back down, we happened to meet a military policeman who said, boys, don't ever come up here again because you could get shot. Well, that was the end for a long time for World War II going to that mountain. One day, Mom and Dad were going to go to town. and leave us 3 boys at home, along with my friend Lonnie Dunn. So when the folks left, we rearranged the furniture here. We're going to play cops and robbers. Lonnie and I are the good guys. Bill and Virgil are the bad guys. They're fortified in the house. Lonnie and I are to come around the edge of that house and capture the bad guys. The only thing about it is, as Lonnie and I came around the corner of that house, Mom and Dad forgot something, and Dad is going into the house. Bill and Virgil don't know that it's Dad instead of us. Dad opens the door to the sound of the boys saying, "Bam, bam." We saw Dad and took off around the other corner. Cops and robbers thing was over for that day.
I was born in North Bend.
In North Bend.
Yes.
And we were living in the little house?
We were living in the little house. There was not a hospital in Florence.
Okay.
So Mother usually always had trouble.
Yeah.
So I was born in North Bend, brought home to Florence, grew up in the little house until somebody burnt the house down.
Well, we didn't burn the house down. We burned the washing room.
Well, we couldn't
Yeah,
live
we
in it.
couldn't, yeah.
And I'm not for sure who it was that left the iron on.
Yeah, there,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah, okay.
you're close. You're close by. You're really close.
One
I left the iron on, face down on the ironing board as we went out one evening for a birthday party, only to get a call to say that the house was on fire. We ended up in Coos Bay for a little while, and there we were living on a hill, and the 3 boys, we built a cart out of apple crates and orange boxes and put it all together, and our driveway came up the hill, made a little bit of a turn, and so after we finished building the cart, we took off on the maiden voyage. Down the hill we go. The only thing about it is we forgot to do a little bit of mechanical work in making sure we could turn and make the corner. Well, obviously, going down the hill, we ended up not making the corner, into the brush, and that was the end of that little cart. Verge and Bill thought it was a wonderful thing to get an old truck tire and put me in it and roll me down the hill on one of the pastures, where I ended up in a barbed wire fence. That wasn't enough, so they got the tire and put me in it again and put me down toward the road, only to hit the gate, bust up the gate, and break up a couple of my lips.
Do you remember when it would snow, which wasn't very often, and we lived up Cushman, the big house, and Dad would take us up to the old goat shed, and he
Yes.
had I don't know if it was a car, the top of a car, or what it was. We'd slide down. He had that Jeep,
Yeah.
and he'd pull us
Yeah,
around.
that little army Jeep.
Yeah.
Let's back up the hill and then let her slide back down.
Didn't have any gloves, and Mom would go get socks.
Oh, gee. That's, you know, that is where the field that Verge planted all those trees.
Yeah, yes.
You know, you can't believe, you ought to see it now.
It's a forest.
It's a forest,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they
So
cut
it's-
all the bottom limbs, and that's beautiful up there.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
very manicured.
A lot of trees.
And that hay mound with boards, we'd
Yeah.
pile up the hay and put some boards and then just go right over them. We'd have 20-foot long tunnels back into a big,
Yeah.
big opening inside the hay
in the hay mound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember once taking me back in there, and that scared you to death. Those things would have fallen in, but
No, they couldn't, because when we were unloading, we would have these boards ready, so when we were unloading the hay from the hay wagon, we
Did Dad know about
No.
that?
Build
Dad,
it.
Dad,
As we
No.
were stacking it in the barn, we had to build it.
Dad knew nothing about it.
Nothing about it.
Dad was a beer drinker. He loved his beer, but Mom wouldn't let him have the beer in the house. But Dad kept his beer in the barn. So we would get the beer that Dad stowed in the barn and fed that to the chickens and to the pigs. The pigs would get drunk, and we had a little shed where they could go into. They would head for the shed to try to get in the door that we made for them, and usually never make it. They'd just bang up against the wall and flop over drunk. The chickens were about the same way. The chickens would get drunk and try to get up on the place where they would roost. Could never make it, and they would flop, and we would laugh. Well, as you can see, we were crazy kids, just nuttier than a fruitcake.
What about that joke you played on Mother? One of you guys did.
Well, that was this guy.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I left it in the bathroom.
Well,
Yeah.
somebody
It was
left
in-
one in the
I-
garage.
I
It was
drank
in the bathroom.
some,
Yeah, this was
I drank some pineapple juice or something that had been in a
tomato
can.
juice.
Tomato.
No,
Tomato
it wasn't tomato juice, but anyway, it had been in the can for a while. And Mom was afraid that it would spoil and that it would, poison, have
Gotcha.
poison to it. But I didn't feel anything. I forgot all about it. But I went in and took my bath, and I had this new shirt, and so I thought, I'm just gonna show off my new shirt. So I stuffed the towels and my dirty clothes and stuff in with towels and stuff, and left it laying there like a person,
Like a dead person.
and put a hat on it, and stuff. And then I went off to bed, went to sleep, and I'm sleeping. All of a sudden, Dad yells. He said, "Get down here! I want you to see your mom."
Oh, Mom about had a heart attack.
She thought that I had actually gotten poisoned and died there. So Dad went in there to pick me up, and I fell apart. And Mom's in the living
You
room.
lost it.
She was sobbing, and I didn't even get a spanking for that. It was so sad seeing Mom hurt like that.
How about you, sis?
But I got that from you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did
Oh,
you
yeah.
you
Yeah.
left the bad guy
No, no, no.
Out in the garage.
down
Yeah,
where
no.
he had fallen down the steps
Yeah.
and had an axe in his hand, and you put ketchup on it.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a terrible mess.
Yeah,
You thought that was so
yeah.
funny.
Oh, that wasn't me, of course it wasn't
Yeah, it
me.
was, because I can remember we went to church up in Tide on Wednesday night, and when we drove in the garage, there it was.
It was not a pretty picture.
It was not pretty. You were a naughty kid.
Now I ask about you. What you were talking about? You, sis, not me.
I was a good little girl.
Oh yeah, you were the angel.
I was. I didn't
Oh,
get
yeah.
in trouble.
Oh yeah, no, I'm true with
The
that.
one time I did get in trouble was I was in the 3rd grade. And I went home with a boyfriend.
Bad news.
And when I did get home, Mother wanted to know what I did. I said, I was staying after school to watch Bobby practice. And she said, Bobby has been home for a long time. Where were you? So I had to confess, and I did I did.
Yes, and she did. We would come down here and put stuff on these railroad tracks, and when the train would come by, well, we had pennies, we had nails, we had washers, and sometimes we wondered whether or not it would even stop the train. We had so much junk on it. And when the train would come with all that stuff on the tracks, we would get underneath this bridge, this little bridge right here, underneath it, and right up next to where the train would be going right over the top of us. screeching and squashing the nails and all of the stuff that we had hung up there. Well, one day, Burge and William and I thought, it's a great thing to kind of get up on the hill back there and roll some rocks down. Roll some rocks down on the trail railroad. We got one big, huge rock that rolled down on the railroad track. And we're having trouble. I mean, we are really having trouble trying to get that rock off of the railroad track. Had to run back to the house, get some 2x4s, trying to pry it over. Finally, way down around the corner, we hear the train coming. And we're working like crazy to get it over. We finally got the rock off the railroad track when the train came up and came by. As naughty boys as we were, the train usually had a bunch of hobos on it, and sometimes they would stop not too far up the road here where they had a place that they could get water for the train, because some of them were still steam trains. And whenever they'd stop and those hobos would be we were up in the bushes throwing rocks at them. They didn't like it too well. We were ornery kids. Best place to make out with the ladies that we were with was Wohink Lake.
Yeah, it was so warm, it was like bathtub water.
Yeah.
So generation after generation, I think, occupied Wohink Lake at night.
At night, yeah.
We had a group of Ed Hagel. He lit some hippies camp across the river, straight across from the house.
Yeah.
And so Gary and I, we got this bright idea that sometime late at night we were going to cross the railroad trestle and go down there and do a little fun.
Uh-huh.
So we got a couple other guys. I think there was 4 of us, Larry Martin and Gary and I and one other guy. So after I got off work at the mill, we all piled in our cars, went up there and went across the trestle, and they had a big bonfire going over there. And so we made a little noise, and they came out, and we just kind of went at it. We were fighting, and then just stuff that you do. And so the next day, we were sitting at the table, and Mom was going, Gary. See, I had to pull this guy off of Gary because he had him down there kind of pounding on him. And evidently he got pushed down into a briar patch, and he was all scratched up. And so I think he gave the excuse that he was riding his motorcycle and fell off of it. So he got banged up pretty good there. We made peace with the people over there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah, we did.
And left. Now, Lonnie, was it you and Gary that walked out on the railroad trestle track when the train was coming at the bridge at Cushman? I heard about
Plenty of times.
plenty of times.
Yeah.
And,
You
well,
get
did you get stuck out there one time?
No, Dad did.
Oh, Dad did?
Yeah. Yeah, whenever he had the little chihuahua
Yeah.
and he was going over to feed the cows we had grazing over there,
Uh-huh.
he got about halfway across and here comes the train.
Yeah.
And he had to take off. He knew he couldn't make it all the way across,
Yeah.
so he had to put the little dog and then go out on one of the girders and
And hang on.
And I think the dog
That-
was Bambi and
Yeah, and he got killed.
got killed.
Got away from me.
Oh, got away from him. And
Yeah, about halfway across.
I was 26 when I got drafted.
you were 26 when you got drafted. Went to Vietnam.
Then I got back from Nam and had 6 months left, and they sent me to Berlin. Oh, this is going to be great. I got to Berlin, and it was in the height of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And it was a nasty, nasty deal. They
Now,
said you don't have to accept this if you don't want to. We'll send you back and give you a different assignment. Your objective here is to buy us a few minutes. And your estimated time of survival is 12 minutes.
oh yeah.
So it's basically a suicide mission. So,
You took it on.
yeah.
Oh, of course.
So I thought, Vietnam, yeah. Berlin, no big deal, but there were spies all over the place.
Yeah.
Gee, trying to get information any way they could. So you had to be careful what you said.
Not bad. Dad had a big old Packard, 4-door Packard, and Virgil was just learning to drive. And you can see where this car is parked. You have to kind of come up and around to get into the driveway. Virgil was driving the Packard, coming home from Florence, made his turn up that little draw right there, and the Packard stopped. The guardrail wasn't there at the time, and Virg didn't know how to get it stopped, and the Packard went down across the road into the river. And we all came running out to see Virg crawl out the window of the Packard and swim to shore. Dad had a boat parked out here, and once in a while we would get in that boat. Well, one day we decided we're going to take the boat out on the river. The wind started coming up and things were not looking really good. The boat started leaking. And here we are, Virg is rowing, Bill is trying to bail on the back end of the boat to keep the water out. I'm in the front bailing. I can't swim, so we've got to make it to shore. And little by little, we finally made it, of course, and I'm here. Well, you know, one of the crazy things that happened was all of our truck wrecks. Right down here on the hill, going down the hills where Virg jumped out of one of the trucks, right? And it almost killed him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
About halfway down the hill, I was moving that old 40 or 52 Ford, I think it was, Dad had.
Oh yeah?
Dump truck, had about half a load of gravel in it. I begged him to come up here and get it because he was going to go get Bruce Jones a load of rock. Down the hill I went, I peeled over, just popped over that flat spot halfway down.
Yeah, yeah.
That thing popped out of gear and I slammed the brakes on. That brake hit the goddamn bottom of the floorboard and down the hill we went. I hit that fir tree at the bottom. And I ended up across the road over there.
That's what I thought.
I hit that. But what I was saying is, I heard that story from Uncle Ernie, and I thought, well, I'll just do that. I'll just whip the wheel on that sucker, and I'll whip it in behind the house.
Yeah.
Well, I was going so fast that it decided it wasn't going to go behind
It wasn't
the
good.
house. But that wheel sticking out like that hit that fir tree.
Oh, okay.
Knocked the wheels, the whole front end underneath it, out of it. It was sitting there about the middle of the truck.
And you ended up over by the marina?
I did. And then the back end hit the tree.
Oh.
And it ripped the rear end out from underneath it. So here I am sliding down across the road with the rear end dragging by a spring hanger. The front end laying on, I was riding on it, and I hit the ditch on the other side of the road so hard. The little window in the back end back there.
Yeah.
It popped that out and put it through the windshield. At the time the dust settled, I looked up and there was Virgil and Mom and Dad standing there.
Oh, dear.
Oh, God, I'm gonna die now.
Most of World War II, we were living here in this house, but it was almost a weekly or monthly event that we would have blackouts. In the evening, we'd hear the sirens, and everybody had to turn out their lights because we're living close to the ocean and did not want to give the enemy an opportunity to see the city and the town, so there was a bunch of blackouts that we had to live through while here in this house. This is where we went down to the beach and found this mine that half of it, one of those mines that they put in the river, and it's got little prongs on it, and if you hit those prongs, it blows things up. We drug that half a mine home and had it out here in the yard when Dad came home and said, "What in the world, guys, have you brought here? Those little prongs on that half a mine could explode and maybe take off one of your hands." So we let him deal with that half a mine and take it and dispose of it. While living here, Brother Bill got rheumatic fever and had to be bedridden for about 3 months in this house, and the doctors came and helped to take care of him, but he recovered and did quite well after that.
The lights burned brighter in this big house. Hearts were lighter as the fire on the hearth burned brightly, because we were together to share our joy and hope for better things tomorrow. For it wasn't just a house, it was our home. The children are grown and gone, and the house is quiet. Everything is still, but the grass is growing where their footsteps made prints in the soil. Trails and gardens are grown where we used to toil. The angels seem to hover over this place where we had often sought God's face. That's why it was our home. I pay tribute to the children we raised in this old house. They have made our hearts full of joy and pride, for they are the children any father and mother would love to have on their side. We have pride and joy to call them our own. That's why it was not just a house. It was our home.